Normally when I have a video rig, it's pretty annoying because I have one camera, meaning that when I want to shoot photos, I have to take this camera out of this rig. And with a normal rig, you're pretty bolted in. But with the rig I'm going to show you today, it's as simple as this. You on-mount your microphone if you have that optional add-on. You disconnect your HDMI cable from your camera. You remove the top handle, and then you simply on-mount the camera, and you are ready to go into photo mode. I just want to talk about it a little bit and kind of explain some of the reasoning for some of the stuff behind it, some of my choices. But first, I do want to say that I can't take full credit for this rig. Basically, about 90% of it was Caleb Pike over at DSLR Video Shooter. I will link his original video down below. But I made some slight modifications to it that kind of fit my needs better. And also, I'd recommend, if you guys are building a rig, don't build it based on any one video. Kind of build it out as you find needs and stuff. For example, his video didn't have a mount for a microphone, so I found this very cool top handle, or this NATO rail, that actually has a rail attachment on it, so I could put a mic on it, which is essential for me because I do a lot of run and gun stuff like this. But yeah, so with that said, let's actually just talk about kind of a lot of the stuff behind this rig, and I'll talk about some of the stuff over here too, because it's a very modular rig. As you, if I showed that clip in the beginning of me mounting the camera really quick, and that's kind of the big thing behind this, is that I have one camera, so being able to go from photo to video mode should be quick. It shouldn't take a long time. Whereas on my old rig with my Nikon Z6 or my A7III rig, I had to unscrew and bolt a lot of things to do that. So I pretty much just had two cameras. I had an A7III and then I had a Nikon Z6 and a rig all the time. But with this, I can use one camera and I can go from any mode I want super quickly. I can mount follow focuses to this with just clamps, no bolts required, which I will show you later on. But first what I want to do is I'm going to actually stand up and kind of give you an idea of how this like handles. So basically, I have it in what I call autofocus mode right now, which is a dual handle because I'm using an autofocus lens. And if I stand up here, so I'm going to stand up, and you can see that this alone right here is nice. You can hold it out like that. Probably weighs about 5 pounds. But the way I shoot with this in handheld mode is I'll actually use like the fat roll of my stomach, and I'll kind of do a 3 point of contact thing here. And then very easily, we got that, where you can have 3 points of contact, and it's very easy to use. And then other than that, I mean, you have the top handle, so you can do, of course, top handle stuff. But since I'm standing now, I will walk over here and show you that on the bottom, this has a Manfrotto plate. So I have all my tripods are with this Manfrotto plate. I tried to use this original one, but it was too long, so it interfered with stuff. So I have these where it's basically a sliding plate. You slide it on, and then it will lock in, if I can not drop my camera. Sometimes you're a pain, but there we go. So now that's like locked in there, and then I can of course crank it down, but I'm just gonna take this off for now. And then I also have that over here on this rig, which is a shoulder rig, another DSLR video shooter thing that I kind of modified a little bit. And basically you could just do the same thing, put that on there. There we go, crank it down. So it's extremely modular. And then the last thing is that, of course, if you want to use a follow focus with manual lenses, very easy. You can just clamp this onto the front here. You could, of course, take the handles off and stuff, but I won't do that now. Put that there. And then you would just take your actual follow focus motor, and then this could mount up top here, and you would just align it to your lenses. And that's basically the rig. Like that's a full built follow focus rig. You could either take this handle off or not. But yeah, it's very simple. It's very modular. I'm just gonna take this off now. Then I'm gonna sit down because I'm getting out of breath holding this thing and trying to talk at the same time. But yeah, with that said, what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna break this entire rig down, and I'm just gonna show you how to build it. It's very simple. It's mostly quick release stuff. But with that said, let's do that now. So now this is the long and tedious part of this video. If you want, you could just go to the description. I have links to everything that I'm using here down below. You can buy that stuff and figure it out yourself. Or you can watch this video, probably take like 10-15 minutes, and I'm gonna show you exactly how to build this rig. So with that said, we're just gonna start with the first part, which is the core rig, which is basically getting the battery mounted, getting some rails mounted, getting this so it's ready to go. And it all kind of revolves around this first part, which is the Tilta A7S III half cage. This does work for the A7IV or the A7S III. The only difference is that, like on the side on the A7S, there's a like a bigger wheel or something. But basically that's it. I don't need to show you mounting this to the actual camera because it's literally a bolt underneath, and then you just mount a arca-swiss plate to the bottom. I use this Black Rapid one because I use Black Rapid straps so I can like hang my camera from them. But the actual plate here, the small rig plate, does come with a Black Rapid, or not a Black Rapid, a arca-swiss plate. And then also there's other ones that you'll probably have. Regardless, that's the core of this part, the camera. We're gonna put that aside for now because we don't need that anymore. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna assemble the actual base plate with rails. So this is the first, like kind of the first and only change other than the monitor or the mic mount that I made from the DSLR video shooter guide. And that is that instead of mounting the A7NITSY 5 battery plate on rails, I actually mount it directly to this base plate. And by doing that, what I basically gain is that instead of having to have either longer rails or running these rails through here, I'm actually able to get this extension up front of the rail. So if I put the rail like this, you can see how far that protrudes. So I don't need this going back here to actually mount the plate. And then when I mount the camera on here, you can see that that extends pretty far, meaning that when I use something like, say, a 7200 or a follow focus, I can either have the follow focus out here, or I can have a lens support actually supporting the lens on here. The first part is we're gonna actually mount this cheese plate to the actual base. So we're just gonna take these bolts, and we're gonna just screw these in, just like so, and make sure everything like this, make sure you're cranking it down. Don't over tighten it, but just get it tight enough where it's not gonna, you know, move around and stuff on you. Then we just align this here. You don't need me to tell you how to screw it's not rocket science. You get the point. So now we have the actual battery plate mounted to this. After that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna begin mounting the actual clamp that will attach to the Black Rapid, or the, I keep saying Black Rapid because I see the text there, but the arca-swiss plate. So what we're gonna do is we get this part, which would come with a plate. It actually comes with this plate here. You can see it's longer, so maybe you'll mount that one to it, but I'm just using my Black Rapid. And basically we're just gonna take this, and it goes right in the middle there, but basically we'll go underneath, and we need to get this screw into the middle there. We use a 1/4-20 on the back, and then I'll also show you something else I do with this in a second once I get this mounted. So just hand tighten these for now. And then what I like to do is I like to align this top part with the other hole there, and I use a third point of contact up top just to kind of like triple mount it. It prevents it from swiveling around, and it just kind of makes it a little bit more sturdy. And then we go underneath and we just crank these down. And like I said, make sure everything here is extremely snug, because this is basically what everything is kind of mounting to. So if any of these come out, that could be very bad. So I just make sure they're cranked down, and like I said, that's why I have the third point there. So if both somehow did fail, which, I mean, that'd be pretty crazy, but if they somehow did, I'd still be protected. And then I like to just make sure everything's good and squared away. And that is the base plate pretty much assembled. So now what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna put on my tripod plate on the bottom. You can use whatever tripod protocol you're using. Like I said, I use Manfrotto, so we're gonna just mount this Manfrotto plate. All right, so there's that. That's cranked on. I'm just gonna crank it down a little bit more, because like I said, this is what kind of everything is balancing off of. There we go. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our attention for a second to the actual cage. And this is where you have a few different options. If you want to do the microphone mount like I did, get this part. It's very nice because you just put a rail on here, and then next thing you know, you have your mic mounted. But if you don't want a mic on this rig, maybe you're doing stuff that doesn't require an onboard mic, and the internal ones would be fine, whatever reason, you can just get regular NATO rails. You can find those on Amazon. They're probably like $10. They're about the same price as this actually, but you can get one that fits right here exactly. So it'd be basically just that, so you don't have this thing hanging off. For some of you that might work better, but this is the one I'm using, so this is what I'm gonna show you. So we're just gonna mount it. That is that part, that is this part. And then all you do is you take your camera, and then there's the core rig. Only other thing, rails, just pretty self-explanatory. They go in here. Yet again, crank it on down, nice and tight. There we go. That is the core rig now. Very simple. And like I said, one clamp, and then you're back into photo mode. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna grab the parts for the top handle assembly and show you how that's built. It's a very simple assembly. There's not much to it, but I wanted to mention here that there is a lot of interchangeable stuff here on this, is that I'm showing you and linking to the stuff that I'm using in particular, but basically the monitor, the microphone, and the top handle pretty much can all be interchanged to whatever monitor, microphone, or top handle you want to use, being if it is a NATO top handle, otherwise you'd have to bolt it in. But this is the top handle that I am using. It's a very small top handle. It's literally called the Small Rig Mini Top Handle. But I really like this top handle because it's small, but it kind of fits perfectly when you like hold it. So I've been very much enjoying using this, but we're basically just gonna start building this. So I like to build this assembly off of the camera, then mount it on. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our top handle, your top handle of choice, and this part may or may not be different, but most top handles use a RE locating pin. You can see here that it basically doesn't move when you mount it, whichever way. So we're gonna just start with that. We're gonna mount this to the top handle. That's good, and what's nice about the RE pins, like I said, is that this won't rotate now. So that is basically the whole handle assembly. Like, there isn't much to that. And then on the monitor here, I am using the NATO rotating tilt and swivel clamp. This is a very expensive clamp. I like it because sometimes I mount a monitor on like a flat point and I like to swivel it around. But they do have cheaper options that are just a tilt and swivel, or just a tilt. But this is the one I'm using. And all it does is just comes on here, and we want to clamp it on. And a note about this is make sure that the red point is facing up. Don't have it behind, because then it will interfere with the actual rail. So we're just gonna make sure this is centered also. So I just center that, there we go. And you don't need to crank that down too much. I mean, it puts pretty good tension on it. But that's basically the whole top handle assembly. And the cables that I'm preferring to use on this rig are the Condor Blue. I mean, it's a very nice blue. They're very high quality cables, but this is the DTAP to 2.5 millimeter locking DC. I like to run that off to the left side of the actual Atomos. So we're gonna put this plate back on. There we go. That's our top handle assembled. We're gonna grab the main rig here, and then we're gonna take the top handle, and then just make sure that your top handle is aligned with your hot shoe. That way your center of gravity is like pivoted perfectly. Then we just crank it down here to make sure it's all nice and tight on there. But you can see that's on there already. And then all we're gonna do, we're gonna run this DTAP cable back down to the NITSI 5, plug it in on the left side, and there we go. So that is that top part there. And something I didn't mention earlier is that you may not think that you can see the screen, but you can actually see all your controls if you look down here perfectly. You can also mount the NITSI in different ways that you can get the screen out on the side. This is a thing I did change from the DSLR video shooter guide, but I'm not a big fan of having my LCD kind of just sitting here. So that's why I'm mounting it behind there, is that it's kind of protected, although I can still access all my controls. You know, I can still change my ISO, I can change my aperture, my shutter speed. You know, I can do everything from here still. But just a side note I wanted to mention real quick there. Turn this off now. So now the last part about this top handle assembly is we're gonna actually take the 4-inch rod, and I don't really put too much thought into how the numbers go on this, but you can mount this up there onto that NATO top handle. And then this is a nice Camvate, I think it's Camvate brand, hot shoe or cold shoe, and you can take this, put it on the rod, and then we can just take our mic, mount our microphone right there, and then we can of course plug that in over here. And then the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use the Condor Blue HDMI to HDMI, plug that into the camera, and then plug that into the monitor. And that is the top handle assembly pretty much complete here. But with that said, let's move on to the last part, which is kind of the most modular and pretty much has the most options to build this however you want. And that is the grip assembly, as I call it. This one has like the most leeway in what you could do with it, depending on what your needs really are. So I'm gonna show you kind of a few different configurations because there really isn't much assembly here. It's all just clamp stuff. But I'm just gonna show you the different options you kind of have to work with the grip assembly here. So the one that I shoot with the most is the dual handle assembly, which is basically just a dual ARRI, or I think it's ARRI rosette. I think that's ARRI. I'm not sure. Rosette, dual rosette mount with these nice small rig wooden handles. This is expensive for what it is. This right here is around $240 for this right here. You can substitute these handles with cheaper ones and stuff like that. But I love these handles because they fit so nice and they're just so comfortable to use. But that is my main front assembly. It's a very, very stable way to shoot handheld with this. But you might not be shooting autofocus. You might not want a dual rig. You might want to have a hand here and then a hand here. And that's where this part comes in. This is also very expensive. Pretty much anything with rigs is kind of stupid expensive. I think this is like 30 bucks. But it's very useful because, say if you want just one handle, you can take this one mount and put it on like here. And you can have a handle here, or you can put it on the other side, depending on which handle you get. And basically you can just mount the handle there. You can have one hand on the controls here, one hand here, or you can put, what I do normally is I'll put it on the right side. And then what I would do is on the left side, this is if I am using manual focus lenses, I will take my follow focus and I can put that here, although you don't have to remove this handle either. But you can put the follow focus gear here, or the follow focus control here. You could even kind of do something like that where you're like dual handling it. And then you can take the motor and you can mount the motor up top here to the mount of the microphone assembly. Put that up there. And then I'm gonna turn around and grab it, but I won't actually grab it. There's a cable in here that I will link also for the follow focus motor that is actually D-tapped to follow focus motor, so you get the full 14 volts to give you the full torque of that motor, and then you can just run that through the actual hole of this rail here, and then mount it like right here, so you can power that very nicely. But that's basically the front assembly. There's not much to it. Like I said, it's pretty much just handles. But the other thing I do want to mention quickly is that, like I said earlier, if you shoot with a 70-200, you're gonna want something like this, because putting a 70-200 on the mount is not very good. And this is just a lens support, and basically that just goes onto the rails too. You can mount that wherever, and then you can clamp it down to give your lens some extra support. But that is basically the full rig. And like I said, this thing breaks down super quick. But yeah, I mean, like there's not much to it. Probably most of this video is talking about actually building this thing. But I really do think that this is kind of the best overall rig that you can get for the A7IV or the A7S III right now. In general, I mean, it kind of does everything. You know, you can tripod mount it, you can hand hold it, you can put, you know, you can put follow focus stuff on it. You can strip the camera down super quickly to go right into like a gimbal. So like that mount, I have this same exact arca-swiss plate attachment on my gimbal, so I just basically put it on there and I'm ready to gimbal. So it's very quick and easy to go to different configurations, mounted on a shoulder rig. You know, you can do basically anything with this rig. And that's what I love so much about it. So like I said earlier, you know, main credits to Caleb Pike. Like he's the one who pretty much designed the core of this rig. And then I modified it to fit my needs, which is what I really recommend you do. Like some of you might not want this whole top handle assembly. Some of you might be like, you know what, the hell with that. I don't need this here. You know, you're gonna be like, I don't need the microphone because I don't do audio. And then you're gonna be like, you know what, I don't need a top handle either. So what you can do is you can just take this top handle off. You know, you can save all the money for this part here, take the actual monitor off here. And then maybe all you want is this mounted up here like this. You know, maybe you just want a monitor up top of the camera, and then there you go. So there's a lot of ways you can configure this differently to fit your exact needs. Although now this cable's kind of not fitting properly. But with that said, I hope this was helpful to someone. This is probably a pretty long video. I couldn't think of a better way to actually film this other than just strapping a GoPro to my head and kind of ranting for like 20-30 minutes about this. But yeah, like I said, there's going to be links in the description to everything here. I am trying affiliate links. I don't know if that will get me anywhere, but it'd be nice if I can make some sort of money off some YouTube stuff, teaching some people some stuff. So if you do use those that help me out, I'd be really appreciative of that. But with that said, yeah, there's not much else. I think I showed you everything. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. I'll be more than happy to tell you any other suggestions for stuff to change on this. You know, I know a lot about these rigs because I've been doing them for 3 or 4 years now, and I've literally a box of just parts. So if there's something you're wondering if you can do with it, ask down below, and I'll be more than happy to try to help you out. But with that said, I'll see you guys next time, and take it easy.